No, well, there's more sample. That's the problem.
Oh, we have
I
more.
found this to be the case with all the cakes that I make the Wonder with. It's not only the texture I prefer, but the flavor is actually better. And that makes sense because when you think of, again, of that flour grain, and you think of the difference of whole wheat or of all-purpose, the cake that's made, or bread that's made with all-purpose, I should say cake, versus cake flour, the flavor difference comes from being closer to the brand, and sometimes you like it better, and sometimes you prefer another type of flour. And interestingly enough, Wonder also works remarkably well in pastry, as a pastry flour. I mean, it's just as good a pie crust as a pastry flour does, and it has just as good a flavor. I tried making a pie crust out of cake flour, and I was able to do it by protecting the flour with the fat first before adding the liquid, so it wouldn't make it too weak. So it had a good texture, but the taste was funky, weird. You know, and because it's different, it's the chlorine bleaching of that, and maybe and where it comes from, the heart of the flour, it just wasn't right. Whereas in a cake, it has a very agreeable taste. So that accounts for some of the differences.
But what were the other two?
Oh, sorry. Okay, the green, well, I'll get to the sequences. The red was the one that was made with cake flour. And to my taste, I have to go back and taste the taste again. I like the taste of the Wonder the best from in the past, but I find the texture is good, but it's not as melting. It's good and it's tender. I mean, if that's all I ever had, I would say this is a great sample of angel food cake. The one that is the green one was the store-bought one. And I was really surprised because it didn't have the rubberiness of past varieties. But yeah, Fresh Bakery, and went all over New Jersey to find it. I guess it's losing popularity, Stop Shop. But the taste, when I first tasted it, my first thought was, gee, what if everybody prefers that? You know, it's going to make really shoot me up. You always take risks when you do things like that. But I was going to be honest. And you did prefer it. Okay, that's all right. Taste is taste. And it's only $3.50.
I think the second one was a bit, remind me of, like, you know, like you burn plastic.
Wow.
And it's becoming like rubbery, or like
you mean the smell or the taste or the texture? The texture, plasticky. See, this is the case with cake mixes. Often people prefer the texture of them to home-baked cakes because they put additives and things in it that change the texture, and sometimes in a very desirable way. And my goal, the reason I wrote that article on cake flour, that master's thesis, my goal was always to have a cake that had the flavor of homemade and the texture of a store-bought. And I can tell you that the reason that the taste is so off in cakes is that they have to use emulsifiers, and that gives them tolerance so that they can throw in all sorts of things. And I'd be willing to bet that there's no way that this cake was cooled upside down. I mean, I'd love to know how it was cooled, because I don't see any device on it that would support it. And I'm sure they're not, after this lecture, going to be inviting me to the factory either. I'm just looking to see if it has any.
How can they bake it in a plastic container?
You want to hear what's in it? Pardon? Well, I don't know. I mean, they baked it in the container. It's baked. Yeah. Oh, there's a thought. Maybe it was Mike. Does anybody have the answer? Yeah. What?
It has like a high ratio quality. That one.
Is it actually sweeter? But Chris doesn't have all the lemon juice I put in. It says 10 white anneal cake. What the heck is anneal? Has anybody ever heard of the word A-N-A-E-L? Oh, it's angel with the G part was missing. Alright, ingredients: sugar, egg whites, wheat starch. Well, see, I knew it had to have wheat starch. Enriched wheat flour, bleached flour niacin, reduced iron thiamine. Well, that's all not related. Is Marion still here? She can shed some light. But let me know if I'm saying anything that's of any significance. Thiamine, mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid. Is any of those things? Does any of those things give you a bad taste? Maybe? There's leavening. Oh, of course leavening. Well, wait a minute. The egg white's supposed to be the leavening. I didn't add any leavening in mine. Monocalcium phosphate, baking soda, salt, cellulose gum, citric acid, artificial flavor. You see, you can always tell that. And you know, when they have those emulsifiers and cake mixes, that's the aftertaste you're tasting. contains eggs, good. It doesn't say whole eggs. They even have some yolk, for all we know. It doesn't say fat-free. And wheat manufactured on equipment that processes wheat, milk, egg, and nut products. Well, that's a whole different issue. And I don't see anything about total fat 0. Because you see, an angel food cake is the one cake that I know of that has absolutely no fat. Not that it interests me because it has so much sugar, but you're losing in one area. But that's part of the reason it's so tender. Yes?
The flavor differences between the first two I found notable because the vanilla is so much more pronounced in the cake flour one than the Wonder.
But it was the same amount of,
That's what
and the same brand.
Why
Because that's why Anne went into all the trouble of getting the Nielsen Massey, which I thought was like a good common denominator. Oh, but you know what? The different flours, the different flavor profiles, makes all flavors different. Although vanilla is known to alter the taste of other flavors more than other flavors altering it. So that's really curious. Oh wait, I have to go back and taste it now. Oh, but I don't have my color on. I think I ate the color. Well, I should be able. We know we don't want this dead white one. Is the. I should be able to tell by feel. Thank you. Does it smell different? Yeah. And you know, because Wonder is treated with a heat treatment, it's going to alter it. I mean, even homogenizing milk changes the taste of milk, and you're not heating that when you're homogenizing. It's just any process changes flavor profile. See, we have a lot of sessions in this collective, what are we called again? Experimental collective cuisine. I think we should change the name because I have so much trouble remembering it straight.
Call it ECC, that's okay.
Thank you. It sounds like Are you hearing me chew?
Oh. Oh.
Oh, Rose.
Yeah, I do get more vanilla in the yellow, on the red. Maybe Woody's more heavy-handed than I am. No, I'm kidding. We even checked the measuring spoons. I brought my measuring spoons and I poured water to see if they were the same. Believe me, it was exactly the same. Hmm? Oh.
I wondered whether they might call cream of tartar a leavening.
Cream of tartar leavening.
I don't think so, because a leavening helps something to rise, and that just changes the pH. You know, and the lower the pH, the more acidic, the whiter, the more tender, the lighter the color. But you wouldn't call it a leavening. But it isn't kosher, I bet. I don't mean kosher. I mean kosher for Passover. Because I remember I put it in the Cake Bible, and the Jewish food writer of the LA Times got the galleys, and she said, "Oh, you're about to make a huge mistake." I don't know how many Passovers I've been corrupting the whole family by using it, you know. But I hated to have to do without it. Even more than that, I hated to have to do without Baker's Joy. Not for this cake, but for other cakes. You know, the Baker's Joy is the flour and the soy oil, so that you can peel things off, and you can't use anything with flour or leavening. So, by the way, we should put this in the oven, or isn't the oven lit?
Well, the oven's lit, but it's blocked.
Oh, blocked. Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see just how long this stays before deflating, ever experimenting. We were really sorry when the one that we saw was going to fall, and we knew it was going to fall, and we didn't think to turn it upside down to see just how bad it would get. Or to put it back in the oven, better still, and see if you can continue baking it. One time I was making a biscuit, which is a sponge cake in a thin layer, and I'd forgotten to preheat my oven. And so I put it in, and I have one of my ovens. It's the only one I can bake a sheet pan and is a wolf. So I put it in, and I blasted the heat, and it was the best, most velvety, light one I'd ever made. But I realized that if you don't have that type of oven, you wouldn't get that quick burst of heat. But whenever something goes wrong, it's usually a valuable, not always, but usually a valuable lesson in it.
Rose?
Yes, Ken?
You could develop a brand new flour that doesn't exist today and put together a team of plants.
So General Mills is blocking that question.
You know, have mechanical engineers, physicists, chemists, that could produce for you something that doesn't exist today. What would you want a flour to be able to do?